Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry about that. We had a little bit of an issue getting things started right here, so we're gonna we're gonna keep on rolling. Looks like we have four people in the class right now. We'll probably have quite a few more as we go along. Today, we're going to talk about basic dryer repair. Okay, if you look on the right hand side, there is a text box that you can add your comments, questions, anything into as we go along. One of the things that we want to talk about is just a basic dryer. You know, basically in the U.S. there was the Whirlpool style. Okay, whenever Whirlpool bought the other five companies that they bought, Maytag, Amana, Whirlpool, KitchenAid, all those five companies. They good afternoon, Janine. There was that style of dryer. Then there was the Frigidaire style dryer. Then there was the American, and then we moved to a Samsung. From a Samsung, next probably came the LG style. Those are very similar. So we're gonna go and we're gonna talk about just basic dryer repair. If we're going to talk about basic dryer repair, the first thing that we really have to do is we really have to understand how do I do any basic dryer repair. Okay. Number one, it's going to involve a meter. Okay. If you're not familiar with a meter, we have a class coming out. It's about let's see, this is March. It'll be in the middle of April, and it is basic meter understanding. So that will be looking for that. It will come up, and we're going to have just how to read your meter. Okay, that's if I'm doing basic dryer repair, I really need to be able to. I've got to be proficient with my meter. Okay, we all have meters. I'm probably the worst of anybody because when stuff comes out, if it's new, you know what? I want to try it. I want to see if it actually works. And you can go anywhere with a meter. You can go anywhere from $5 or up to close to 1,000. Okay, so no matter what you want the meter to do, I carry a meter around in my pickup. I don't run service calls anymore, but I carry one around in my truck. If I'm doing AC or DC or uh, excuse me, AC or DC voltages, I can do that with just my basic $5 meter. I can check my ohms with a basic $5 meter. Um, Whenever we're talking about a $5 meter, this meter right here was $4.99 at Harbor Freight about 2 weeks ago. Okay, it doesn't it does DC voltage, it does AC voltage, it does DC amps, it does ohms, and then of course it's got the buzzer. So all I need to know is how do I make sure that I'm able to check everything with this meter. And we're gonna take a few minutes right now, and we're gonna go through that. Okay, so my meter basic. Meters are designed for three things. Okay, they're designed to check resistance, voltage, and current flow. If I'm going to check current flow, what am I doing? That would be an amp. Okay, I'm looking at this meter right here. This meter has DC voltage, goes for AC voltage right here. Right here, it takes AC amps, and then somewhere there's DC amps. So we gotta go through. Right here is where I check all of my ohms. This is a basic little meter. it just has an on-off switch right here, and then the meter comes on. Used to be that you turn the meter and it would actually advance to where I wanted it to go. So I can check all three of those with this $5 amp, with this $5 meter. Okay. So why is a meter called a multimeter? Okay. The reason it's called a multimeter because it checks those three items right there. Okay. They perform multiple functions and measure different kinds of voltage with either AC or DC voltage being present. Okay. So let's talk about resistance. We're going, like I said, this is going to be just a high level introduction to meters. So just bear with me for a minute. We're going to get into the meat and potatoes of it here in just a minute. Okay, so with resistance, the opposition to current flow is a component that has measured into ohms. Okay, the electrical components or the device have a resistance value. The symbol for ohms is the upside down horseshoe. Okay. What are some examples? Anything can be inductor, a circuit board, the power supply, a resistor, a diode. Those are just a few of the examples that I would do to check resistance. Okay, the voltage, the meter potential, or the potential difference between the 2 points is measured in this unit called volts. Okay, the symbol for voltage is V. Okay, the potential is either DC, which is direct current, or AC, which is the alternating current. Okay, so what are some of the examples of a DC voltage source? That would be a 12 volt, like your 12 volt car battery. Okay, so if I'm going to check things for my car, I'm going to have to use DC. Okay, if I'm going to check AC voltage, that either comes in 110 or 220, and there's a variance in there. The 110 voltage actually to my house is not 110 volts. It's actually 123 is what I get from the pole. Okay, so my voltage for AC is not 110. Like I told you, it's about 124 on my my 220 volts is not actually 220. I just checked it again. It was 249. So you have to be very careful. The things that you need to remember is if I'm checking my AC voltage, if something happens and I have my foot stuck in the water and I go across a 110 volt system, it's going to grab me and hold on to me. If I've got a 220 volt system or a 308 system, it's going to push me out and blow me away. So that's whenever if somebody gets into 110 volts, that's the reason. The only way to get them off is to use rubber gloves and grab them or something in that. I'm not an expert when it comes to that. We always used to laugh and try to knock them off, but you can get in a whole lot of problems that way. Okay. So like I said, I'm not an expert with how to take care of that. I personally have been shocked many a time, both with 110 and 220. I have had be standing in a water and I was able to get off, but there are a lot of people that have died from that. Okay. So let's move on and talk about current. Okay. Current is the flow of electrons through a semiconductor, which is a wire, or at a certain rate based on the voltage source and the resistance of that flow of current. Okay. So current is the measurement in amps or amperes. Okay. So the symbol for that is an A. All right. I am looking at just like voltage, current can be either AC or DC based on the voltage source of the circuit. Okay, an example is a light bulb in your home. When you put the light switch on, you're going to get current, which is 120 volts from the fuse box through the switch to the light and then back to the fuse box. Okay, the circuit is an AC type current. Okay, so what is my meter's actual role? What depends on what I'm checking. Okay, so as identified, like we've already talked about, this is critical to remove from the operating source. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug the unit. If it's hardwired, I'm going to go to the breaker and trip the breaker. A lot of the times I'm not going to know if I have to trip the breaker and I don't have a plug, if it's hardwired in. I don't trust it that it is labeled correctly. I always try to find the breaker, go back and then just double check to make sure that I don't have any power. That's what I've always done. I have been doing this for about 40 years. I'm 60. I'll be 65 this May. So I've been around. My cousin owned a repair place, and he also installed ice makers. So I got exposed to that at a very young age. Okay. So the most common method, like I said, is to unplug it from the power source. If I can't unplug it, then I've got to go to the box and turn it off. And then I always go back and double check it with my meter. Okay. So if I'm going to measure resistance, okay, it's the power. Once you remove it, this is how you check, is I check it with resistance. All right. I'm going to go to the ohms function, which is right here in this meter. Okay. Oops. It's right here. Okay. It's also highlighted right there on that meter right there. And the meter's internal battery itself will check it. Okay. The only problem that I have is if I come in and I go to, if I go and plug it into AC amps in this particular meter, if I plug this into AC amps and the neutral, and I measure it in properly, I can short it out. Most of the meters that I have that are my good meters, they measure voltage, amperage, and resistance. There's 3 different plugs right there, and each one of those plugs are where I would have to put my meter lead. Okay, so let's look at a dryer. We're getting down into the nitty gritty of the dryer. Okay, so if you look at this example right here, I took a picture of a box. I apologize that it's not straight. I don't have a good camera, so I had to take it with my phone. But if you look on the far left side that's the L1. Okay. Then right in the center is the neutral wire, which is the white wire, and then we have the L2, which is the red wire. And those all 3 places have a pole that I screw into whenever I'm talking about my dryer. The one thing that I have that's left is an earth ground. Okay. The house that I own in Daytona Beach does not have an earth ground. Well, it actually does, but that I regress. So it doesn't have. I have only a 3-wire plug, not a 4-wire plug. So this is what I need to know whenever I'm going to. If I change the dryer out, I need to know, do I have a 3-wire or a 4-wire plug? Okay, there's a big difference. A 3-wire plug, if I've got that, it won't fit into a 4-wire outlet. Okay, So I've got to know, what do I have? And the big difference is the earth ground. The earth ground is the center plug, and that's what we go on. So what exactly is an earth ground? Okay, I've got an example, excuse me, of the earth ground, and it's actually on the power pole that's outside the house. Okay, that's how this one is. My house, or my dad's house in Alabama, that one actually has an earth ground that is a 6-foot rod that was driven into the ground, and then they took a wire, attached it to the box, and then attached it to the earth ground. Usually it's about a number 8 copper wire. And the earth ground itself can be made out of either aluminum or copper, or it could be an aluminum alloy. I was helping my dad work on his, he has a barn, and we were running power to the barn. So we actually put an earth ground on the power, just because we wanted to be sure that if something happened, it did go to an earth ground, and it would short out to the earth, not to the box itself. So, this what does an earth ground actually look like? Okay, this is the one that I was just telling you about. Okay, the earth ground itself is a rod that is driven down into the ground. If you look, there's an earth ground that goes right through this, right at this pole, and then at the very bottom there's a little clamp I think it's either a 5/16 or a 3/8 nut, and it's a clamp that has that screws in, and it screws into that number 8 wire, and then it goes around that earth ground that you've driven down into the ground, and that goes all the way around it, and that's what an earth ground actually is. Okay, so in today, everything that we have today, okay, you're going to have this third prong that you're going to see, and along with I've got a power wire, a neutral, and then I've got the earth ground. The earth ground is the one that has the upside, the kind of the weird shape on the bottom. If you look at the plug itself, it also has an odd shape. So that's with every one that we have today. So this earth ground is right there in that plug. My home in Daytona Beach was built in 1948. I do not have that where those 2 arrows are pointing. I don't have that. Whenever my house was built, it only had 2 wires. So what do I have to do? There are adapters that I can buy, and it has a plug that the 3-prong fits into the 2-prong, and then I have to screw that into the plug, and then right there on the bottom, in between the 2 outlet pieces, right there, there's a screw. So what they say is, oh, we'll tighten it up to that screw. Well, it actually doesn't do anything. It just holds that into place. So with the earth ground, you can see this right here. That's not a good example. The best example, you can see it is down. You can see actually where that wire goes. So that's not really the thing. Okay, so let's get now down into the meat and potatoes of it. Okay, although I'm working on a Whirlpool dryer, Whirlpool also makes Amana, Maytag, Roper, Kenmore. There's a couple of other ones that they have. So Whirlpool has bought all of these old companies, and they kept them from folding, and they just folded them into their Whirlpool stock. The first person that they bought was not Kenmore. The first one they had was KitchenAid. That's who they bought. It was KitchenAid. Okay. So whenever I'm looking for a unit, one thing about these, they pretty much all have the same, where I'm going to get the model serial number is pretty much on the same, on the pretty close to being on the same spot. Okay. The control panels are usually, the way that I know that it was a derivative of a whirlpool is the control panel. Look at the control panel here. They pretty much stay about the same on this one. This is actually a picture of my dad's dryer, and it's a Maytag. And if you look, it has on the right hand side, there's a little that's a little piece that you pull out, and that's where your filter is. And I have to check that on my frigid air. I have to clean it. I have to lift down. Same thing with the GE. I have to just open the door, and the lint filter is right there in the very front of the door. Okay, if I have an LG or or one of the other brands, it can be in a whole lot of different places. Okay, but once again, if we're talking about a whirlpool, this is whenever I take the back off of a whirlpool, this is my normal way of what it's going to look like. Okay, if I have an Amana, this is actually my dad's dryer. He had blown the high limit fuse, and I had to get in there and replace it. And I figured while I was doing it, I just replace everything, because his unit is about 8 years old. So I just went ahead and replaced the operating thermostat, the high limit thermostat. I went ahead and replaced the the heater. I figured, you know what? If I'm getting in here, I don't want to come back in a month. I can order it as a kit. It comes as one whole piece with all of the fuses attached to it, and I'm ready to go. So that's what I did, and it worked out the best for me. Okay. So 7 things to check when I'm working on a whirlpool type dryer. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is whenever I unplug it from the wall, I'm going to check and make sure that I have the proper voltage coming into the plug. I'm sorry, coming from the box to the plug. Okay. So what I can do is I can turn my meter, this meter right here, I can turn it to 200. Where's it at? There's DC, AC. This meter shows 120 and 240. So I'm going to go, if I think I'm going to go to 240, I'm going to swap it to the 240 switch, which is right here, which is right where it's at. Okay. Then I'll take my meter and put both of the test leads in there. I should come up with 240 between both of the hot sides. If I go between L1 down to the ground and down to the neutral, I should be reading 110. Then I'll pull that out, go between L2 and the neutral, and I should be reading 120 volts again. Well, somewhere around 120. Okay, so here's an example of how I do this. Okay, this is actually not truly one of mine. This is a friend of mine that works for a different manufacturer, and I was helping him, and I got this picture whenever we were working together. As you can see, his is 247 volts between L1 and L2. Okay, so between L1 and neutral, I should get 120. His is at 123. So those tell us that was good. So now I can move along. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check my thermal fuse. So to check my thermal fuse, all I have to do is come back all the way around, go to my lowest setting. Okay, here I got to turn it on. and go to my very lowest setting, and it will tell me this one shows 1. So I'm going to go between the common and the ohm setting, put my 2 meter leads together. They should zero out. Then I can take and place it together. On this meter and almost every single meter out there, there's a little buzzer. On this one, it's right here that you can't really see very well. Okay. But I can turn it to that little buzzer. I can now hold those together. And whenever I hold the 2 leads together, I get a buzzing sound. Okay. I'm going to unhook one of the leads. I've got to unhook one, because if I don't do that, I probably am going to have false reading. So I'm going to have to do that. And place my 2 meter leads right there. If I get a buzzer, a beeping, I know that my fuse is good. Okay, so I know that my thermal fuse is good at that point. Okay, but this is how I check my components. Okay, now one thing that you got to remember is, if I have gas, I have to have. Sorry, that's not what I was trying to say. If I have a gas dryer, I'm going to have to take and it's usually a gas dryer is only 110 volts. It doesn't have 240 volts. It's only 110. Okay, so I'm going to know that as soon as I look behind it, I'm only going to have a 110 volt plug, and I know that I'm going to have a gas dryer. So my gas dryer, I got to be careful, okay? Because depending on the manufacturer, I'm going to pull somewhere around 3 ohms. I've seen it go up to about 3.5, and I've got it down to about 2.9. If it falls below 2.9, it never lets the gas valve come on and send the gas through. So until because the igniter is not hot enough to ignite the gas. Okay, so if I'm going to be checking my igniter, I'm going to look for obvious things. Okay, this is actually an igniter out of a dryer, and that you can look right there and see that there's a break in that line, and that glow bar will never glow. Okay, these igniters a lot of the times are called glow bars, just because that's what they look like. Okay, so I'm gonna check. So on my Whirlpool, it needs to be at least 3.1 ohms. If I get much below 3.0, it will never fire. So what will happen is I will check it. My amp draw will only be, let's say it's 2.9. On this Whirlpool, it'll only go down to 2.9. It only gets to 2.9. My glow bar still glows, but it doesn't have enough to ignite the gas, so it never sends power through the gas valve to tell it, hey, okay, go ahead and release all the gas, and it's a safety measure. I'm hot enough to ignite the gas, so go ahead and send the gas. Okay, so what will happen is it will never ignite. So that's one of the complaints that you may have, is that my igniter does not have enough amperage so that it will send the gas valve the okay for it to send the gas. Okay, I have run into these. One of the ones that I actually ran into was not it wasn't really a dryer. It was a range, but it still I pulled 2.6 amps. So the glow bar glowed, So I had to go check and see why in the world it didn't. And it was a wiring issue, and I had to go back and rewire part of it. So that's one of the things that you need to be sure that you are watching for whenever you're trying to repair a dryer. Okay. So everything that I'm going to tell you right now, always unplug the unit first. If I'm going to unplug it, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to check everything that I can check. If I need to, I can then plug the unit back in and recheck it. But that's after I have gotten some of the stuff disassembled and I know that I'm not going to have a problem. And one of the problems that I have seen is somebody that took the front off of a dryer. Whenever they opened whenever they took the front off, it actually caused the drum to fall, and it shorted across one of the pieces, and so we had a problem. The guy tried to light the house up. Okay, so the way to keep from doing that is to unplug it. Okay, so there's two different configurations whenever we're talking about a thermal fuse. Okay, the one on the left, this is the new style thermal fuse for a dryer. This is the one that my dad has. The old style, you can see it right there on the other side. That's the thermal fuse for an old style dryer. Okay, so the number one reason for the thermal fuse to trip is lint buildup. So if my thermal fuse has tripped, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to pull that lint filter out. Whenever I pull that lint filter out, I'm going to try to get down into the lint trap. I usually do this from the back side, and I can loosen about. There's 12 screws that go around that motor where the lint goes through on the left side over there. And I can actually pull it out a little bit and feel down in there and see if I can find all of the lint that has come down. A lot of the times, once you do this, I'm going to have to go to the front and clean everything out of the front, because I have had a dryer catch on fire because the customer never cleaned the lint filter and then wanted to complain, saying that it was a Whirlpool problem. And the answer is no, it's not. It's unique. It tells you in your use and care manual, you have to clean it every single time that you put a load in. Okay, so here again, that's where I'm going to set the meter. Okay, I'm going to turn my meter on to the one, and it actually shows the symbol for a buzzer. Okay, so to check the thermostat continuity through the thermostat, I do this right here. I unplug both sides. I then take my red meter lead and put it on one side, my black meter lead and put it on the other side. I check the continuity through the thermostat. This is one of the high limit thermostats. Okay, if I receive a tone, the fuse is good. If I don't receive a tone, then I got a bad fuse. So what am I going to be able to do? Okay. The next thing I need to do is figure out, okay, I know that I now have a bad thermal fuse. I'm going to go and I'm going to pull one side of the, I'm going to pull one side of the lead, and I'm going to check the operating thermostat. Then I'm going to go down and I'm going to pull one side of that, and I'm going to check the heating element itself just to see if I have anything going through there. If I do, then I know that I'm good and I can keep going. Okay, if I get a fuse, if I get that tone, then that's telling me that the fuse is good. Okay, if you need to replace the thermostat as a kit, This is the part number. It's 279816. This is exactly what I ordered. Okay. And of course, if I'm going to buy it, where am I going to buy it? I'm going to buy it from Encompass Parts, because they take and supply this class to everybody at no charge. So once again, I'm going to put a plug in for Encompass. That they are the ones that provide these classes for you. And we always have either a basic, an intermediate, or an advanced class. We have one that is an advanced class that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. That I see that there aren't any, but there's not but 2 people that are signed up for it. And we've had that class before, so I'm hoping that that class fills up. But this is what Encompass does for you. They tell you that it's basic, intermediate, or advanced. Gives you the opportunity to go and ask questions. If I am a medium, if I am a technician that's had 3 to 5 years experience, I'm gonna be right there in that intermediate level. And then if I'm a technician that's been around for over 5 years, I'm going to be in that advanced class. These mainly go from the ones that I try to do the most on was my basic and my intermediate level. Even if I'm at this basic level like we have today, you can still pick up some good pointers. Because like I said, I've been around. I constantly talk to technicians. I actually had a conversation with one of the guys that I know that's over there in where's he at? He's in Conyers now, and he Ronaldo, and he's I hired him whenever he was very young, and he has matured, and he now has his own business. So that's one of the things about this. Okay, when replacing the high limit thermostat, there may be an additional wire, and that additional wire connects the fuse to the element. This is the way it is in my dad's unit that I replaced it. So that's one of the reasons that I went ahead and ordered the whole thing, because it came all done. The only thing I had to do was mount the thermal fuse on the side. Okay, so installing the new thermal fuse, you see it right there. Okay, I'm going to secure it with a screw as seen below. The thing that I don't like about the new thermal fuse, it used to have a screw on both sides of that thermal fuse. My dad's actually, whenever I was going back and redoing everything, this one screw down here held both sides. The other side had a little tab, and that's how it held it in. I don't like that new part, but I'm not the one that was trying to save Whirlpool a whole bunch of money. Those guys make a lot of money just for saving people a half of a penny. So once I get all that done, I'm now going to connect my wires. Okay, that's a good. I want to bring something up right now. Okay, if I'm the technician and I know that I've got 12 wires that I'm going to unhook, what am I going to do? Okay, somebody tell me. What am I going to do if I know that I've got? I'll tell you, the one that's the best example is an infinite switch on a range. How do I keep track of all of the wires that go onto an infinite switch? Or if I'm doing the same thing here and I've unplugged 8 or 9 wires off of the excuse me, off the box. So how do I know? How do I keep track of those so that I make sure that I don't blow the fuse that I just had to order? Okay, somebody tell me what. It's an easy answer. Go ahead I mean, we got 4 people in here now. So what as a suggestion of what I do, I take a picture of it. Okay. This is for anything anymore. I'm getting old. Like I said, I'll be 65 in May, in middle of May. So I know that I don't remember quite everything that I used to. So I will take a picture of this, and it doesn't matter. I just helped my dad work on a tractor a couple of weeks ago, and I took a picture of it just so that I made sure that I had the wires put back in where they belong. That's one of the things that you need to do as a technician. You need to take a picture of it, because there's nothing worse than coming up and going, wait, I got one extra wire. Either that or was it a red wire, or was it a gray wire, or was it a blue wire? Which one of those ones is it that goes to this side of this switch? So take a picture. You know for sure that you are the one that you know exactly where these wires go, and I don't make any mistakes. Okay. So I'm going to set my meter to the highest ohm scale. I should check that. If I read between 30 and 100 ohms, I should be good. Okay. The next thing to check is the push to start switch. Okay. To check this, I actually, this is, once again, I was with one of the technicians, and he took a piece of cellophane tape, taped the switch down so that he could go to the back side and take a reading of it with it depressed. Okay. That was a really good idea, because the other thing you have to do is you have to hold that switch in, and you have to be around the back side of it. You've got I used to have a couple of little clamps for my my meter lead, and I could put those on there and put the clamp on it, and then I could hold that down, hold my meter, and look at it and see what it did. This is a great idea, and thank you for that. All right. So next, I want to remove the plug with the 2 blue wires, which is, you see the plug right here. I may have 3 wires. I may have 2 wires. I may have 4 wires. It just all depends on the push to start switch. Okay. So I want to remove the plug with the 2 wires attached, and with the meter set to continuity, I'm going to check between the 2 leads on the switch, looking for a tone. If I have no tone with the switch depressed, I have a bad switch. If the unit has 4 wires, then you have to check the wiring diagram to make sure that I have the correct meter lead placement. Okay. Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far? We've kind of done this. I tried to have it laid out so it's in line. And I will tell you that whenever we get to these classes and we're talking about wiring diagrams, I always look at the circuits, trace the circuits out before I start doing anything. Once I trace the circuits out, I look and I try to find some place in the middle, and I try to look at it. A good example of that is a microwave. You know, a microwave. If I have worries about my switches or my anything on the side that just has 110, I go to there. Once I get to the transformer and the high voltage side that's on the other side, the only thing I check on that side is you never do it with it live. All I can do is check continuity. Okay. If you hear the motor humming, but the drum's not turning, you'll need a putty knife. Then after that, I'm going to remove the lip filter, remove the 2 Phillips screws, the putty knife, put them on both of the corners. I'm going to push it in. That depresses the little switch, the 2 pins that are in front of the dryer. I can now lift the lid and fold it back and I can look and see what's right there. You get this, once I remove these 2 screws, actually, that's not the correct place right there. That is, those 2 screws are not those 2 that are shown right there. They're actually in the dryer's part right there. You can see both of them right there on the right side from where those 2 arrows are. So I apologize about that. I missed that. Okay. But I still am going to put there's the putty knife that's put in. I'm still going to do that. Okay. So try to run the fingers under the belt. Okay. If I pull on it hard, I should be able to do that. If I don't, then I know that I've probably got, if the belt's gone, I'm going to have a belt. The other thing is, sometimes the pulley will have whenever the drum turns, there's an idler pulley that's down on the bottom right next to the motor. That could be bad. I'll be able to usually you hear it squeak, and that will be one of our problems. Then we have on the back, there's somewhere between 4 and 6 that I'm going to have to replace if I see it. Okay. So if the next thing that I'm going to do once I do that is I can go and I can check the timer. Okay. I'm going to check the power to the timer. Since we verified the push to start switch is good, when you push to start, listen to see if you hear the motor winding try to start. Okay. Once again, it becomes a thing. As a technician, you've got to have, your eyes, your ears, and then you just keep your mouth shut and listen, and you can usually find what the problem is. If not, check the power to the motor. If you have power to the motor, you may have a bad motor. Okay. Then I'm going to have to check with the customer and see if they want to replace the motor, because a lot of the times with the new motors, they're more expensive than actually the dryer is. So by the time you figure in your time, how much till I could go buy a brand new dryer. Whenever appliances first came out, everything was, that was a major purchase. Now it's not. A microwave oven used to be thousands of dollars. Now it's $150, $199 for a basic microwave. It's just things are throwaway now. But I need to make sure and confirm that the motor's bad. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to inspect the dryer blower wheel for an obstruction. Make sure it's freewheeling on it's not freewheeling on the motor. So I'm going to try to spin the dryer wheel for the blower. So I'm going to try to spin that blower wheel. If that thing, if I get it and it just wheels, that tells me that I'm going to have to replace the blower wheel. And probably I have had those where I ended up having to replace the blower wheel and the motor because I couldn't get the piece off of the motor, the back side of the blower wheel. Okay. And I have found weird things in there. I came up on a woman that somehow her 4-year-old son had pushed a block down into it. You're going to find weird things. I found a couple of bills, like $10, $50 bills in the blower wheel because it had gotten out of the kid's pants. Okay. So then then the next thing I'm going to do, if that all checks out, I'm going to check the wires on the motor. So I'm going to take a picture of it, just like I said, or I'm going to look at the Molinex plug. The one on the left is the one that is my dryer in my house in Daytona, because I have an old dryer. and all of those are wires. The one on the right is my dad's, and that's a Molenex plug. So I could just unplug the Molenex plug, and I was good to go. But if I've got the one on the left, I've got to take a picture because it's not clear which wire goes where unless I have a good picture of it. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the wiring schematic to determine where the motor start and run windings are located. I'm going to follow those down. I'll know exactly which color wire it is. Once I go to that, I can transfer that to the motor itself, and I'll know where the start and the run windings are. Okay, so I'm going to isolate the start and the run wires by detaching them, just like it's shown right there. Okay, then I'm going to use the lowest ohms scale setting. I'm going to use the black connector lead and touch it to the motor connected to the terminal. You can see it right there. Okay, then the red lead to the start winding. So right here you can see where the red lead goes. So I've now ohmed this motor out, and I know that I should be reading somewhere between 2 and 5 ohms. If I'm reading those somewhere between 2 and 5 ohms, I know that that's good. I know that it's good, that my motor is good, and I know that I have a different problem. Okay. Now, like I said, you're going to go to the run windings. I'm going to repeat everything, which is the different wire. And, if the meter shows 2 to 5, I have a good meter. I have a good motor. If they both show between 2 and 5 ohms of the resistance, then the motor should be functioning properly. But there's a thermal fuse. Okay, so I've got that goes to the motor. So I could have a bad motor thermal fuse. Some of the fuses are replaceable. Others are not replaceable, and you have to replace the whole motor. Okay, you have to know. Whenever you go to it, you're going to have to look it up and find out. Then I'm going to have to call the parts house and say, hey, I need this part. So if I have the Easy Stock app, I can go into my Easy Stock app. I can look and I can see if the motor I can replace the thermal fuse, or I have to buy the whole motor. If I have to buy the whole motor, once again, I got to go say, JQ customer, here's what I found. Here's what you're going to need. Is going to be a motor. Here's the cost. By then, you'll know what the cost should have been. How do you want to proceed? Do you want me to order the motor and have it fixed, or do you want me to you just go buy a new dryer? Because here's what it's going to cost me to fix it. Here's the price of a new dryer. Basically, how do you want to proceed? You leave it up to the customer, and then you're going to have the customer that says, I want you to go ahead and fix it. And then either the husband comes home or the wife comes home and they disagree, and you're going to call them back whenever you get the motor in, and they're going to go, we just replaced it. So you're going to run into that. Just be prepared for that. If you have the Encompass, as long as you don't take it out of the box, you can return it for 60 days. I think that's what it is. I'm not going to quote you. Don't quote me on that. Go and talk to your rep with Encompass. Reggie is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Always call Reggie and say, hey, Reggie, I got this motor. I need to return it. But just double check. Or you can call the parts house and somebody there at Encompass, they can tell you if they will allow you to return it. Okay. So I'm going to disconnect the terminals from the connector. We're checking the thermal fuse. Check the 2 terminals with the meter set to the lowest ohm scale setting again, and the meter should read close to 0 ohms. Okay. If the thermal connector has no continuity, the motor will have to be replaced. Or I can replace that thermal fuse. Okay. So we're done a little early. We're set up for an hour, but I have time now. We can sit and we can talk about any questions that you have on a dryer. Does anybody excuse me, does anybody have any questions on these dryers? Just type it into the box down there, and we will certainly sit and discuss it. Anybody? That's that thermal overload that I'm talking about. That is, hang on, that's the switch that we're ohming out right here. So this is that's that switch that we're talking about, Sean. But the problem is on the real old ones, I can replace that. On some of the newer old ones, I can't replace it, and I just have to go back and I have to replace the motor. But thank you for bringing that up, Sean. You're exactly right. Okay, that's a good point, Sean. Thank you again. Does anybody else have any questions? Like I said, we're way early, and I thought we were going to be running really late. That's the reason I've been pushing it, trying to get through. I guess I should have slowed down a little bit. Okay, so nobody has any questions? Come on, guys, you gotta have at least one more question out there. That's not it. I'm actually trying to pull up a. Well, that's not good. Now my computer's not wanting to work properly. Yes, you're exactly right. You are exactly right, Sean. That was the thing about older stuff. I'll give you a perfect example. Whenever I was working for my cousin, we did a lot of air conditioning stuff, and we also had ice makers that we did, and the motors, the fan motors, you could actually had an oil spout that you could put oil in, so that if it started getting noisy, you could use oil in it and it would help it. But they don't make those that way anymore. Okay. Well, guys, I really appreciate everything. We're going to talk about just a minute the yeah. Okay, Sean, you sound like you're an old guy like me now. Um, we're going to take just a few seconds and a few minutes, and we're going to talk about. First thing I'm going to talk about is Encompass training. As you know, like I've said several times, coming up, we're going to have several classes that are let's see, 2-day lock ring seal system. That's in right now. So our 10-inch top load, commercial ice maker. I'm trying to find the ones that actually we do have several classes where they charge. Any of the virtual classes do not have a charge. So the first thing coming up next will be the LG combo washer heat pump. That doesn't cost you anything. So I would tell you that you would need to make sure that you sign up for that. That is April the 3rd, so it's coming up here pretty quick. The next thing is an LG on April the 4th. So the next day is an LG refrigerator. That also does not cost you anything. The next thing is April 7th through the 10th. Okay. That's a 4-day seal systems training. That is a pay class, and that costs $975. But I will tell you that you will get your money's worth out of that. Okay. That is also in Lawrenceville. Then there's a 2-day training that costs $500. Okay. That's for lock ring. And that's also in Lawrenceville. And that's a 2-day class. So, I mean, we have all of our virtual classes that do not cost you a dime. And then if you want to go and spend time look for the classes on Encompass University. Okay. You can go to https://solutions.encompass.com/the # Most of you probably have all this already down. 277-298-F6725-224-4C3B. That will take you to the Encompass website. You can go in and you can look at this month what we have had and what's coming up. Then we've got April, May, and June. That you can register for your classes on. Yes, there is. Like that's where I was talking about. Redo, that's Encompass University. Okay. So if you guys will send me a text message, I will send you the link, or you can just go to Encompass University, type that in to your browser, and that will, let me just double check that. Because I really don't want to Encompass University. Let's look. Nope, that's health degrees. There it is. So if you type into your browser Encompass University - Encompass Supply Chain, that will bring you up to the Encompass Supply Chain University. That will give you a list of all the classes that are coming up. And like I said, I've got all of my second quarter classes, which is now April through July. All of those are done. Here in about another month, I'll be submitting the third quarter classes. So we try to stay at least 3 months in. That way you got time to plan on it. If you have any other questions, like I said, my name is Mitch Williams. My information is scrolling on the bottom of the screen. If you're gonna send me, if you want to call me, that's fine, but text me first. Like I just told everybody, I'm turning 65 in about a month, 2 months, and I've gotten about 10 calls a day wanting me to go to their system, and by the time I finally get through them, I never get to them and answer them. So if you'll text me on my phone number, that's my cell phone, I will send you the link, or text me and say, hey, I need this. Ronaldo, my buddy Ronaldo, he did that. If you want to get signed up for any of the classes, you can do that at the Encompass University. If you think that you want to become an authorized servicer, if you'll talk to Reggie can probably direct you to the right person to become authorized for many of the today's appliances. So if you need to get in touch with me, my number's scrolling across the bottom. The other thing is Easy Stock. I'm gonna just take a few minutes and talk about the Easy Stock program. Basically, I wish that I had this Easy Stock program whenever I was a kid and was just coming into this business. This Easy Stock program, it actually will keep track of my parts. If something happens and I fall below a certain level, if I have my fast moving parts, I know what my fast moving parts are. I can double check because the Easy Stock program will run a spreadsheet and say, these are my fast moving parts. I want to make those parts available and have them on my truck so that I don't have to go back out, because if I have to go the second time, I'm losing money. I can't afford to lose money. I'll go out of business. So I am going to make sure that I have every single part that I can on my truck. And this Easy Stock program will tell me what my fast moving parts are. The other thing is, if I know that I'm going through, let's say I go through one a week of a certain part, I can actually set the Easy Stock program up so that it will reorder my part if I drop below a certain level. That way I'm sure that I've got that part, or that part is on the way. If something happens and they don't have it in the Lawrenceville market, it'll go to one of the other markets. It'll go out and look for it, see where it's at. It may cost you an extra day of shipping time, but you can get your parts, and you'll know where it's coming from and where it's going to go. Okay. So I really love this program. If you want to go out there, you can actually go out and look at YouTube, type in Encompass. Here, I'm going to do it just to make sure that I tell you correctly. And if you type in Encompass Easy Stock app, okay, it comes up. As soon as it does, it comes up with the first thing is this Easy Stock app. Now, this Easy Stock app is 3 minutes and 34 seconds. If I go through and I go in and I type in Encompass Easy Stock app, I should get about 4 or 5 Easy Stock apps. that range somewhere between 3.5 minutes. There's one that's out there that used to be an hour. I'm looking for it right now. Hang on. Encompass, come on. Encompass. Let's see if this is it. There it is. If I type in Encompass Parts Easy Stock app, it goes right to it. Okay. And it will give me a whole lot better. This still looks like the one that was almost an hour is not out there anymore. Okay. Yeah. That looks like that's what it is. Okay. So does anybody else have any other questions? So guys, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for taking your time to go, because as everybody knows, it costs you money to not be on the road and not be making money. But thank you for taking the time today. If you guys need anything, like I said, my name and my phone number and my email are all scrolling across the bottom. Reggie Williams, who's my brother from a different mother, his information is scrolling across the bottom. And of course, he is your Encompass rep. I'm just a trainer. And if I wanted to download the Easy Stock program, I'd go to the Apple Store or my Google Play and download it. The only requirement that you have is you have got to have a Encompass Parts account. So I have an Encompass Parts account, so I can actually order online and I don't have to do anything. I don't have to call anybody. I can use my Easy Stock app and I'm good to go. Okay. Everybody have a great day. Once again, thank you. And we will see you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend and be safe out there. Thank you.